Tony Rotherham. He is a professional actor, performer, historian, and a professional portrayer of Robin Hood as part of his lifestyle. So, Tony, how are you and how are you doing?
Good, yeah, good. I'm good. You know, I'm keeping myself busy. This weather is great. Bit warm for running around in the old linen and wool, but
I can only
yeah,
imagine leathers and linen just running around in
oh,
the sun can't be good.
it's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. You tend to drink your own weight in fluid just to get yourself hydrated. Really important. A lot of people forget to drink plenty in the hot weather,
They do,
and
yeah.
then in sunstroke and heat stroke, and no, keep yourself hydrated. You know, plenty of fluids inside you, and don't keep drinking cold drinks because they make matters worse.
Yeah, they
Uh,
start to chill down your organs. Organs tend to
that's right.
constrict
They
and not
lower your
move, not
core
flow things
temperature.
properly.
Yeah, they lower your core temperature. But the point is, I mean, like if you want to feel the benefit, have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, something warm, because that builds your body temperature up, so it kind of equalises the outside temperature. Like, that's why I drink a lot of coffee in places like in the Middle East. You know,
Okay.
when I was out there, it was the same. Like, you'd be stopping every half hour or so, and somebody'd get the pot on, like, drinking coffee and so on, just to
Keep
keep
you
you
going.
cool.
It's
But
it's
mate,
like you say you've been to the Middle East. Is that a more recent thing? Is that something you do more often?
oh, no. It's when I was doing my degree, my PhD, my final dissertation. This was well, I mean, the title of it was enough. It was the socio and economic ramifications of the Crusades on the 20th century Holy Land.
All right.
Yeah.
Because I heard you had like
So
a
yes,
PhD in history, drama, and art. So how does that all play?
oh, I
Do they
haven't
all
got
play in together?
I haven't got a PhD in drama and art. I've got degrees in drama and art, not
Okay,
PhD. I've got a
sorry.
PhD in history.
Ah, I must
That's
have
the
misread.
thing, like. But that was my final dissertation, and yeah, I was out there for about I don't know, 4 months,
Okay.
traveling the old Pilgrim Trail from the Alexandria in Egypt right up the coast, past Arsuf, Ascalon, Tripoli, right the way down into Odessa and down towards Jerusalem.
Wow.
So yeah, just talking to people. Did it a bit differently. Hired two guides to take me. I think this is back 1982, 83, something like that. And I paid them both about 120 quid. They were over the moon. That was the most money they'd ever seen,
I bet.
you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, they stuck with me throughout the whole journey. The journey took about, what, 2 months, really,
Okay.
travelling. They were on camels, I was on horseback. Did it a bit differently because I wanted to prove something about it.
What was that?
So I wore mail, you know.
Oh, you were chainmail. Okay.
But with £60 a mile on my back and padding underneath with a Templar surcoat on, I had a lance and a shield. And
I
yeah.
can't imagine that was comfortable or cool.
It wasn't comfortable and it certainly wasn't cool. I nearly died, actually, to be honest with you.
Oh, what
If it
happened?
wasn't for these two guys that were with me. I was drinking and drinking and drinking, but as soon as I was drinking it, it was coming out of my pores. I was sweating it out.
Right.
So I thought, okay, and I got on the horse one day, just fell straight off. I woke up in a hospital, and what they'd done is they'd stripped me of all this kit, and they dug this pit, and they put like goat skins in it, and they'd soaked the goat skins, and they laid me in it and covered me over, and it was to cool me down. Yeah, so I nearly died, but
Wow.
I
Is
did
that
it.
like is that like to rehydrate the body? What was the process of that? Do you think?
It's just to cool me. Oh, that was just plenty of water. And no, of course, when I got into the hospital, I had a drip in the arm, like, with it just to bring me, get me fluid level back up. But nasty, Woke up, had a right headache.
I
Well,
bet. I
that
can
that
imagine.
headache lasted for 4 days.
So
Yeah.
what was going through your
So
mind when you woke up? It was like, where am I? What's going on?
yeah, I was completely confused. Didn't know where I was. Didn't know who I was. It's like if you can imagine the worst hangover in the world. Yeah, and then you kind of multiply it by 10. That's what it's like. That's what it feels like. And yeah, it wasn't clever. It was, I nearly died, but still, I didn't, and I did what I needed to do when I got back, and it's great. Oh, I'm still in contact with one of the guys.
Oh, cool. It's so good when you find friendship in quite those kind of circumstances, and it carries throughout the entire life.
It did, and you know, I mean, he always sends me an email at Christmas and on my birthday just to see how I am, and you know, contact him that way. Of course, I ain't got Facebook, but you know, it's nice. It's nice, and he's a great lad. He's a great lad. And as I said, you know, if it weren't for these two guys, I'd be dead now. But it was all part and parcel of what I was doing at the time. And really, along with that, when I was blimey, that was 1982. Of course, I've been fascinated with the story of Robin Hood and
yeah. So tell me where that comes from, because like say, I guess you are, I guess for many people, you are the living embodiment of Robin Hood's character. I mean, so what is it that at a young age drew you to his character and his ideals, and obviously has now led you effectively to live his life now today to be the historian that you are? How did that come to be?
I can show you.
You can show me.
And it's all down to this. It's all down to this guy, isn't it?
Oh, is that the Rubber Green one?
That's Richard Green. Yeah.
Richard Green, that's it.
That's Richard Green. Totally captivated by the stories when I saw it. And of course, they weren't the original stories. It was my brother who introduced me to the original ballads because I didn't understand them.
Yeah, I saw you mention the word ballad. So what's the difference, say, between a ballad, a legend, and a story?
Well, a ballad it is literally just a story. But because most of the history we've got of Robin Hood is based on the original ballads, that's how people remember it. You know, I mean, Robin Hood and the Monk, Robin Hood and the Potter, Robin Hood and the Guy of Gisborne. You know, these are all the original stories. But what people forget is that everybody looks on Robin Hood as the squeaky clean hero with his little green hat and his tights and his long bow, and you know, and he's the leader of this outlaw gang, and he robs the rich and gives to the poor. Great, brilliant stories, absolutely brilliant stories. All the Robin Hood films and television programs have been based on that. You know, and it's brilliant. You can't knock it. Superb. Nottinghamshire hero, not just Nottinghamshire, of course. Yorkshire hero, Warwickshire hero, Derbyshire hero. You know. We've got each county, especially within the Midlands, has got their own Robin Hood story. You know, there's plenty of them out there. If you check Robin Hood online, if you put it into the internet, there are millions of pages about Robin Hood. Some better than others. Some are absolute rubbish. Some are brilliant. You know. But no, it just completely captivated me, the story. So I wanted to find out more about it. So as time goes by and I get older and I'm reading more and I'm understanding more, I start to look into the history behind the ballads, you know, and then you realise the first one wasn't really known until the 1400s, which is great, apart from the fact that we first hear about Robin Hood.
It's like 1190, isn't it?
Yeah, during the Crusades. However, when you look at the history of it, you realise that there's every chance he wasn't actually around during the reign of King Richard I and the Crusades. You know, he's more likely to be around during the times of Edward II and so on. And so many people get things wrong about Robin Hood. Like, you know, everybody says he wears Lincoln green. Lincoln green was never a colour, it was a material. You know, the colour was completely different. In fact, the colour was it was red. Lincoln green was actually red. It was the material that was called Lincoln green or Lincoln grain.
Oh, okay.
G-R-I-Y-N-E. You know, a lot of people get that mistake. And I always, whenever you see him in films and television series, he's always expert with a long bow and he's expert with a sword.
It was more of a short bow, shouldn't it have been?
So history tells you something different. You know, to start with, if you think of a sword, even a basic sword during the medieval period, especially the early medieval period, where did he get one from? Did he rob it off somebody? I doubt that very much. Because what use would it have been to? Couldn't have used it. It would only have been any good to sell. But of course, swords were like calling cards. You know, they were very, very individual.
Yes, they were, yeah.
this was higher status swords, you know. So you wouldn't. It'd be no good to him. He couldn't sell it. So what would he do? Keep it? Would he learn how to use a sword? I doubt it very much. He's living in the forest, or so everybody thinks. You know, he's like, where's he going to practice? Who's he going to fight with? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A sword was a safe status symbol. Plus the fact it's 3 feet of steel. You try wearing one of those in a forest and you're running around and things banging around by your side and you're tripping up over it. They get in the way. You know, they get in the way. You wouldn't have had a sword. The longbow, another great one. I often talk about this at Pagan Pride, obviously.
Oh, yours. That's where we know each other from initially, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. How long is it now? 8, 7, 8 years? Is it 8?
This year will be 9, I think.
9 years, yeah. Well, you know, I started off with the first one, so I've
You
been,
did, yeah.
You know,
I was like,
course,
hey, how you doing?
of course, people think people talk about Robin Hood like he's this great wood spirit. He wasn't at all. In fact, what he was a Roman Catholic. You know. So it always fascinates me when people say, but what about all those forest spirits? And what about Herne the Hunter? Herne the Hunter didn't appear in the Robin Hood story until the 1980s. People forget that.
So he was a character created more recently from fictional books and stuff, or fictional stories.
He came in. Richard Carpenter wrote Herne the Hunter into the Robin Hood Sherwood series, originally with Michael Pride, and then of course with Jason Connery.
Yes.
And there again, you open a great, massive can of worms when you're talking about something as simple as that, you know, because people say, oh, well, I preferred Michael, or I preferred Jason, and, you know, suddenly you're in an argument about who was the best Robin Hood. Well, I can tell you who the best Robin Hood was. It was Richard Green. He set a standard that everybody else can only ever
emulate.
Kind of achieve to get there. Because let's face it, Kristian, everybody of my age, everybody of my generation, and I'm in the 50s now, they remember Richard Green. He was there. It's like a Doctor Who thing, isn't it? Everybody's got their own doctor. Apart from the fact that people forget, all the actors only ever play one character. He's always the Doctor, not different doctors.
No, he's just a different portrayal of the character.
This is the same thing with Robin Hood. People don't realise that between the 12th and the 15th century, if you're going by what legend says, there are 15 you can choose from. 15 different Robin Hoods, because Robin Hood was never a given Christian name. It was assumed a criminal alias.
I was going to say, is it then more of it? Is it an alias that people then picked up and then used as a character name? Is it kind of way of anonymity?
Well, think about it like this: when you see the Robin Hood stories, you always hear about Little John, Will Scarlet, Much, Marion, and Friar Tuck. These are the main principal characters of the story. Yeah. However, Maid Marian and Friar Tuck don't even belong there. They didn't come in until the end of the 14th, 15th century. So, you know, what are they doing there? These are things added. The whole point about the Robin Hood story is it changes as time goes on. Characters are introduced, characters are taken away. For instance, ever since the Robin Hood Principle, well, in fact, ever since Robin Hood Sherwood, there's been a Saracen character involved.
That's right, yeah.
You've got Mark Ryan, excellent actor, played Nazir. And then, of course, you've got Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman took over, yeah.
Azim and so on and so on. And suddenly he's been introduced. You saw it in that god-awful BBC series with Jonas Armstrong. And, of course, you know, and this is something that has been introduced because the story has to change. However...
Is that to keep it interesting? Is that to keep it kind of culturally okay right now?
It's like when people look on Much. People think Much is he's like the simpleton. He's Robin Hood's kind of stepbrother, and he's a kid and everything. And when you see him on in the series and so on, he's always that kind of
a bumbling.
He's a little bit slow, a little bit simple. But in the original ballads, he wasn't. He was very smart, very intelligent. And, you know, he was something to be contended with in the actual outlaw gang. Again, there's something else. Everybody thinks that Robin Hood is the greatest archer, you know, but in the original ballad of Robin Hood and the Monk, that's completely different. It's completely wrong because in Robin Hood and the Monk, Robin Hood decides to go to St Mary's, which was the local church, to go and confess his sins. And Little John goes with him to keep him out of trouble, and they're having a a bit of a shooting game as they go along, and Little John beats him again and again and again and again. So much so that like, they have a bet on it, and Little John wins and Robin Hood doesn't. So he slaps Little John across the face. This is when Little John leaves the gang because he says he's had enough of it. So it's not the first time Robin Hood has done this. You know, obviously this is something that's been happening quite a lot. So Little John leaves, and then of course Robin Hood gets captured, and then he expects the rest of the outlaws to go and bail him out. Of course they do, which is why I tell people, when you're reading the legends of Robin Hood, don't look on Robin Hood as the hero, look on him as the catalyst to the story, because the story is really about people around him. It's about everybody else around him. It's what they're doing, how they sort things out. You know, just a different way of looking at things.
It is.
You know, and if people were to do that more, they'd realise that Robin Hood isn't actually the hero. He's really the antagonist. He's the one that causes the trouble. He's the one that shoots his mouth off and drops everybody else in it. He's the one that is going to go. He's the loose cannon, basically. He's the loose cannon. He was never this hero in the early days. In fact, he was more like the mischievous imp of nursery rhyme. Only with back in the early days, if children were misbehaving, they were threatened with Robin Hood. If you don't behave, we'll take you into the forest and leave you for Robin Hood. I mean, you know, this is how things change. It's exactly the same with any other heroic characters that you can think of anywhere in the world. I mean, you look on people like in America, for instance, like Frank and Jesse James. They've got this heroic status. They were bank robbers and murderers.
Yeah, they do.
Ned Kelly, you know, in Australia, again, robbed people, killed them. You know, it wasn't. These weren't heroes. These were gutter criminals. Dick Turpin. He's a great one to look at. Dick Turpin.
Yeah.
He is the most untalented of all the highwaymen. You know, I mean, the history tells us that he was a butcher by trade, fell in with the wrong crowd. The wrong crowd being the Gregory gang. The eldest brother was Sam Gregory, who was in charge of the gang. Didn't even like Dick Turpin. You know, Dick Turpin, no good with a sword, absolutely useless shot. You know, and the only reason people remember him was because during the Victorian period, a man called William Harrison Ainsworth wrote a book called Rookwood. Yeah, and he compared Dick Turpin to Nelson. You know, and it's a great story. Completely nothing to do with the actual character of Dick Turpin, who was a pockmarked piece of work, torturing people. Didn't have a horse called Black Bess, never made that ride to York. That was about 100 years previous by a man called Neverson. You know, so this is how legends are formed. This is how they're built. Now, people say, but, you know, it's a myth. Well, and again, this is something else. So many people get mythology and legend mixed up.
So how would you differentiate them?
Legend is always based in fact. Legend is always based in fact. And mythology is just a story. Yeah. So, again, something to remember. When you're reading about a legend, you're reading about something. It doesn't make any difference how differently it's written. You know, how different.
No, we'll call concept at the beginning, or it's centered in there that actually is based on a truth that has been exaggerated and changed with the times to move forward. As where a mythology, I guess, is a story.
But you can overdo it. You know, like these new films. I mean, it wasn't until my agent over in America contacted me, telling me that there are 9 Robin Hood films in production right now. 9.
I saw. I was on YouTube a couple of days ago. I saw the trailer for the new Hollywood version, and I was like, okay. And then from there, I saw the trailers. There was like 3 others I saw. There was a couple of independent ones on the way, and I was saying to my son, who was over at the time, he says, effectively, because the character is open source, anyone could write the story, anyone could promote it, and there's no license fees to pay. You just make the movie, and you cash it in at the end when it hits the box office. So when you're saying there's 9, that's not a surprise. I mean, so which ones have you? Do you follow them all, or do you move with it and talk about it and reply and review it?
Yeah, what it is that like this new one, for instance, it's got what's his name, Edgerton guy,
Yeah.
and Jamie Foxx playing Little John. Now, I'm sorry, but like, you know, and this is meant to be racist in any way at all, but Little John was not a black American guy.
No,
Yeah, he was not a black American guy. You can only do so much for the story before it becomes ridiculous. It isn't a story about Robin Hood. It becomes a story about just a guy. You
yeah.
know, you can't, and that is the problem with these big American production companies. They think they can improve on British legends. They've done it. They did it with King Arthur. They've done it with Robin Hood. They're going to do it with. They'll do it with everybody eventually, if we let them. I mean, it's not their legends, their history they're messing about with. It's ours, and I think they've got a bloody cheek to do it. To be honest with you,
I was looking
the
at
Robin Hood legend has been loved for hundreds and hundreds of years. What do they think they can improve on it? You know?
the one thing I was interested in watching the Jamie Foxx and Edgerton trailer. I couldn't quite work out what time it's supposed to be based in. There's a lot of buildings that are fortifications that are much later. The arrows stop work. You know, that's fine. I couldn't work out whether it was almost like a neo-future or whether it was supposed to be set even earlier. I couldn't work it out.
It's meant to be set during the Crusades. It's meant to be, but you know, I mean, I was thinking, well, hang on a minute. Let's have a look at this. So you've got these repeating crossbows. Where did they come from?
Yeah.
Glass
That's like 1800s.
They're using as Molotov cocktails. Where did they come from? You know, and the costumes are all kind of too fanciful, and you know, it's just bad. It's going to be a bad film. It's going to be a bad film. I'll guarantee it.
It looks a bit
it's going to be
gritty,
worse than
stylized.
the Russell Crowe one.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody was really looking forward to that. I was really looking forward to it because I was in it. And when I saw what they'd done, I was horrified. I was horrified. I thought, you've done it again. And this is Ridley Scott we're talking about, you know. He should know better because his films like The Duelists, one of my favourite films, spot on, absolutely spot on. Kingdom of Heaven, another great film.
Yeah.
Another great film. I mean, okay, Balian wasn't anything really special if you look at the historical character, but the film was brilliant. Costumes were great, absolutely superb. But, you know, it's why these Hollywood... And everybody's got to remember this new one. I can't even remember the title. It's that...
I think it's just called The Legend of Robin Hood or something.
It's being done by Leonardo DiCaprio's production company.
That's right, yes.
You know, and I'm thinking, Leo, what are you doing, man? what are you doing? There are so many people out there that could actually have helped you make a good film, and what you've done is you've put millions into what is going to be a bad film. Now, I am sure there are going to be millions of people out there that think it's great, but those millions of people haven't got the first idea as to who Robin Hood really was, because most of those people will have been educated through seeing the television series and the films. Most of them might have read The Adventures of Robin Hood at school or whatever, but again, that is not the history. You need to know the history of the character, where he came from. For instance, if you look at his timeline, it says in his timeline, or one of them, that he was born in 1160 and he died in 1247. Now that put him in his 80s. However, the thing that really amuses me is if you go by that timeline, when he met Maid Marian, he was 35, she was 15. You know,
The thing is, ages have changed with the times.
You never see that, do you? You never see that. They never put that in. He was 35, she was 15. Okay. Now, there are laws against that these days, of course. It wasn't changed. Wasn't back then. It was completely acceptable. All right. Other time, you know, I mean, it's a fascinating... I mean, you can argue for days and days and days about Robin Hood. And you can guarantee everybody who says they're right will be wrong. And everybody who says they're wrong will be wrong. Because there's no right or wrong about Robin Hood when it comes to history. All we know is that somewhere there was somebody called Robin Hood. We know that because his name appears in court rolls and registers and so on and so on. We see the name. Yeah, it's written down. And, you know, in various forms like Gilbert Robbie Hood, Hobby Hood, Rob Hood, Robin Hood, and, you know, there's so many. And, of course, the name Robin, Robert, and Norbert were all the same name. If you knew anybody called Robert, you could call him Robin or Norbert, and he'd answer to it because it was the same name.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And people talk about Robin of Locksley. Okay, apart from the fact that Locksley, there wasn't one in Nottingham, there wasn't one in Yorkshire, there was one in Staffordshire, you know. So where did he come from? Did he come from Staffordshire? No, I doubt it very much. You know, but this is just the way that people write stories. They look for some things that are like, whether it's a name that sounds cool, or a place that they visited that they go, oh yeah, this would be a great place to write a story about. And that's how they do it. They just write these stories. And that's how it works, you know. But, you know, again, like I said, there's so much that you can pick fault at. Like the sword thing I told you about, like the colour Lincoln green, like the longbow. I mean, the longbow never made any real impact in this country until the middle of the 13th century. So what's Robin Hood doing running around with one in the 12th century? Not to mention that the longbow is a Welsh weapon, and of course throughout the 12th and the 13th century we were pretty much at war with Wales.
Well, it was the Kingdom of Mercia at the time, wouldn't it? So
where did he get it from? Where did he get his longbow from? Because, you know, people say, well, he could have gone to Wales. Yeah, he might have done, but I doubt that very much.
I'm pretty sure they might have killed him if we were at war with them, because they'd have just seen him as the enemy by default. So
that's right, absolutely, absolutely. Plus the fact that, like, I mean, even now, if you see a Welshman in the confines of certain cities after midnight, you're allowed to kill them. The law says that.
The law does say that.
The law says that. You know, it's one of those unrepealed laws that are still around, which date. Oh, some of these things are ridiculous. They go right back to Doomsday and so on, like, you know. But again, it's just a fascinating character that I was totally taken with when I was a kid, and I never grew out of it.
So when you talk about, say, the core aspects, you know, the things that tend to pop up in every version. I mean, do you think that's because the story resonates with the idea of like fighting against oppressors, and there's someone who is there to help the people?
It's just a great story. It's got everything you want, isn't it? It's got the hero, it's got the villain. You know exactly who the hero and the villain are. You know in the end it's going to kind of turn out to be a happy ending. Even when Robin Hood dies at the end of the original story, it's still kind of a happy ending, because what he does was he turns himself into this legendary character by dying and then shooting the arrow through Kirklees' window, which he never did, by the way. But he shot this arrow to call Kirklees' window. In actual fact, in the original stories, it wasn't one arrow, it was two. It was two arrows that he shot. One fell into the river, which ran hard by. The other one was said to have sailed off into Sherwood Forest, which again I doubt very much, because Sherwood Forest and Kirklees Abbey are not exactly close. You know,
even a longbow shoots what, like 60 to 90 feet?
They've got at Kirklees. That grave they've got at Kirklees, which is said to be Robin Hood's grave, it's been moved at least 7 times since the Victorian period. You know, it's a folly. You know,
it's a tourist trap.
It's ridiculous. But again, it's just a great story. You've got everything in there. You've got the romance, you've got the action, you've got the hero and the bad guys. You know exactly where you stand. It's very, very easy to follow, and it's not convoluted. It's not convoluted. What people have done to the story has made it more convoluted. But the original story, good guy, bad guy, girl.
I guess when I think about a story, I think about one thing I really enjoy about all stories is the complexity of the guy who's the oppressor, who's the enemy, as it were. If that character is good and has depth, the story, the hero, is made better. So when I think about the Robin Hood character, I'm not only aware of the sheriff, I'm also aware of the King John edition and the Guy of Gisborne edition. So he's not fighting one character in the Romantic Spies version. He's actually fighting 3 in a way.
You just mentioned Guy of Gisborne. This proves how kind of non-heroic Robin Hood was, because in Guy of Gisborne and Robin Hood, they have a fight. Guy of Gisborne manages to catch Robin Hood in the side. Robin Hood kills Guy of Gisborne, cuts his head off, which was what is known as an Irish knife, sticks it on his on the end of a pole, and walks into Nottingham with it. You know, I mean, that's that's not really heroic, is it? You know,
I guess, I
you know,
guess
you don't,
it's pretty commonplace in certain parts of the world, but not here.
yeah, it's just vicious, and that's what he was. He was a vicious gutter criminal who didn't care who you were. He would have robbed a poor man as well as a rich man. He'd have probably slit your throat as well and disappeared off into the woods. You know, it's again, like I was saying, I got kind of sidetracked. But when you look at Robin Hood and the gang, in the original stories, he had 140 men following him. 140. Where are you going to hide 140 men in the forest? You know, oh, it's ridiculous. That's just too many men. So what was, if you think about the common sense, and when you're looking at these kind of things, you have to use common sense, you know. How can Robin Hood have been robbing somebody in Calverton and robbing somebody just outside Nottingham and robbing somebody in Hucknall? Because
Everyone's
what they
got the same name.
was they'd split the gang up into smaller groups, and each captain who was in charge of that smaller group was called Robin Hood.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
Exactly. You know, again, it's one of these things that, you know, common sense prevails when you're looking at legend. It really does. Because there are some things in these legendary stories, especially the medieval style legendary stories, that you know are just blatantly ridiculous. They really are. You know, it's splitting the arrow, for instance. Now, he was said to have split the arrow at 300 foot. I doubt that very much. You can't see an arrow at 300 foot. What he did is actually split the wand. Again, something else that people forget about. A wand is usually, it's a stick. It's about an inch wide, usually made out of willow, peeled, so it's brilliantly white. And that's what he shot at. And he worked 300 yards away from it. You know what I mean? No, it just didn't work like that. That isn't what it was all about. You know, and everywhere you go around the Midlands, as I said before, they've got their own version of Robin Hood. I mean, it's and their own version of a Marion story, for instance. The Derbyshire Marion story is one of the most beautiful ones, where Robin is going to be trapped and Marion finds out. This is as they're getting older. So she goes out into the forest to try and find him. There's a thunderstorm. Lightning hits a tree and it kills her. This limb. This branch, this limb falls on her, crushes her to death. But her dog, called Tricket, who was given to her by Robin when they first got together, stays with her for 3 days, and then he runs off into the forest to find Robin Hood and bring him back to where her lifeless body is. You know, lovely story, but very few people actually know about it.
So when you look when you look at the movies, then the one version I kind of like probably the best actually is Robin and Marion, because it's a much more subdued story. It's a much more delicate interplay. There's a real there's a story to be had between the complexity of the characters, and their interplay with each other is actually much more realistic. That's the one, yeah.
And Audrey Hepburn, yeah. Absolutely superb film. And I'll tell you why I like it so much. So when he first gets back to England and he's in Shield Forest and he blows the horn he finds in the tree. And I think it's Tuck and Will Scarlet who jump out, and they don't know who he is because, like, you know, he's been gone for 25 years. And they attack him, and then they're sitting down, and after everybody, they realise who they are, and they're sitting down, they're having a meal, and he says, well, how have you lived? And they say, well, like the old ways, you know. He says, I'd go and Friar Tuck says, I'll go, played by, of course, Ronnie Barker. Brilliant casting. Goes there having this meal, and he says, I'd give service and collect for us, like, and Willoughby outside stealing the horses. And then he says, well, what do you do? Well, he says, well, I play all the old ballads and tell them all the old songs. And it's Sean Connery's character, Robin Hood, turns around and he says, yeah, but we didn't do them. You know, brilliant. What a stroke of genius. What a stroke of genius actually saying it in the film, because, and this is why I think it didn't do as well as other Robin Hood films, because it was too gritty, too dirty, you know, for the time. You know, it was a bit too. People didn't really want to see Robin Hood like that. They wanted to see him as a young kind of thigh-slapping guy, like Errol Flynn. But the Errol Flynn film, of course, was a great film. People love the Errol Flynn film.
Yeah, well,
and I can understand why.
Yeah, well, growing up, my mother, she kind of idolised Errol Flynn, so that film was on every so often. Of course, Channel 4 would pretty much air it every Sunday. You know, it was the one everyone
Well,
saw.
it's amazing because whenever I'm round at people's houses and like, you know, and somebody says, "Oh, Robin Hood's on," and it's the old Flynn one, they might be flicking, "Oh, not again, not again." But you can bet if somebody clicks on it, everybody will start watching it because it is that well loved. I mean, yeah, there are people that hate it. You know, it's not the most, well, it's certainly not an accurate film, but it's the Jest of Robin Hood, which is the longest ballad just put into film. And, you know, I mean, I've got a copy. So many people I know have got copies. Well, I've got to have a copy, really. Excuse me. I've got to have a copy, really, because of what I do. But, you know, it's great. It is a really great film. And Errol Flynn, the consummate hero, and people go, "Oh, yeah, but in real life he was." I'm not interested about his real life, you know. I am interested in the film. You know, how he played Robin Hood, which was great, you know, absolutely spot on, legendary character, you know. So, yeah, so many things you can talk about Robin Hood, so many things you could, I mean, we could be here for days doing
Of course, well, yeah.
You know, there's a whole series of things you could do about Robin Hood, like all the various characters, where they came from, how they developed, and so on and so on. You want to think about that. And, you know, it's amazing. And of course, there are reenactment societies all over the country that do Robin Hood. You know, and I've travelled all over the world doing Robin Hood, literally doing Robin Hood.
Yeah, because obviously, I know you've been lecturing for like 20, 25 years now on the subject. So.
Yeah. I have, yeah, I have, yeah. And I get I get some wonderful letters from some of the students, kids as well as adults, that come through. It's like a friend of mine was going through a real hard time. When the Tales of Robin Hood was open, I was the education officer there. When he came in, I'd not known him. I didn't know him at the time, but we became friends like that. And he came in and he did the tour, and I took him for the indoor archery, and I explained about the archery, like, you know. And he, that was it. I thought, okay, fair enough, nice one, brilliant, you did really well. He left, and about 5 years later, he comes back, and he, of course, I was only freelance because I was only working there, you know, if they needed me or something. But I just happened to be in on the same day that he came in, and he came up to me and he thanked me so much, shook my hand. He says, "I took up archery after you." He says, "I was in a real bad place when I came in here, suffering with depression and so on and so on." He said, "So I joined a local archery club, and it really kind of helped me out, like, you know." Brilliant. Brilliant, superb, great. I'm only too happy to help like that. The kids who they make things for me, like, you know, I've got some wonderful pictures, some brilliant artwork that I've had for years. I'll never get rid of it. You know, I keep it all in a big file. And you know, it's just a shame Nottingham doesn't do more with it. I mean, yeah, you've got Aid who does his talks, and there who does his walking tours. They're okay. You've got the Legacy, which is run by my man Adam Greenwood.
And is that the one that's actually now up by the castle?
Yes.
On the left, on the other. So it seems like a small little red frame shop. Seems a bit tucked out in the way, but I guess it's on the way to the castle. If you're a tourist, it's perfect. I haven't been in there as yet. So what's it about in there?
If you come down out of the castle, if you're going up towards the castle, it's on your right. It's literally right outside the castle gate. Right outside the castle gate. Run by Adam Greenwood. A tremendously nice fella. You know, he's passionate about Robin Hood. And, you know, obviously. And, you know, it's a nice place to go and see. Yes, it needs some work doing on it. I've told him that, you know, and he understands that. And it's getting there. Bit by bit, it's getting there. But, like, you know, the only problem is there's no disabled access. There's lots of stairs and so on. He needs to find a different place to do it. But, like, as a place to go and visit about Robin Hood, it is the only thing we've got in Nottingham. There's a little bit at the galleries, but nothing special. That
is a weird point. I mean, I guess since like the tail was closed. I lived in Peterborough.
The galleries came out of the tails.
Yes, I mean, I lived in Peterborough until I was like 15. And I can remember
Hmm.
being 12, and my mum, we took a trip up here, and we went to the Royal Towers of Robin Hood. Particularly, it was in the press, we wanted to go, and, I can remember like going around on the motorised
Yeah.
track they had in there, and it was good fun. I learned a bit, I did the archery, I did the dinner that's in there, very medieval style. And I always wanted to do the banquet, but I never got around to it, and by the time I could afford it, I've been, it'd gone.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing because, like I say, the Jorvik Viking Centre up in York, it's kind of it's like the same style. It's the same layout, the kind of the same arrangement, and
Yeah,
the
well,
Living
the
New Museum.
tiles was there. The tiles was there before, of course.
Yeah,
The Jorvik Centre. It was there before, so a lot of the what you see in the Jorvik was actually taken from the ideas that the builders had at the tiles. Now we know that because I've been told it, But it's just a shame. It's just a shame that through bad management and greed by the owner, that the tiles actually shut, because it was the only thing in Nottingham about Robin Hood, like the legacy. It's the only thing actually in the city about Robin Hood now, which
I'm
is
surprised. I'm
ridiculous.
surprised that like the council doesn't jump on it as an opportunity to shout. I mean, this the Nottingham subheader banner is City of Legends. Yet, like you said there, we don't do anything about it.
They don't do anything with it. They have the pageant and in the city, and Nottinghamshire have the festival in Sherwood Forest. But other than that, there's A doing his talks. There's Tim up at the castle again, another really nice chap, Tim Pollard, who does the stuff up at the castle, and there's Adam, and of course there's me, and I've been doing it longer than all of them put together. You know, I don't get used anymore by the council because of the amount of messing about and just idiots. I'm afraid. They've got no idea what they're doing. Um, and it's a shame because, but the problem is, what really makes me laugh? If Yorkshire decide to do something about Robin Hood, then Nottingham and the council are all up in arms about it. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do this. And he came from, and it amuses me, that does, because I'm thinking, well, if you're being so vocal about it, why don't you do more with the legend? Why don't you do something about it? Why don't you actually get something purpose built? Now they're going to be saying, now everybody's going to go, yeah, but you're going to do something at the castle. Yeah, now, what about for the past 20 years?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And when did the Towers of Robin Hood kind of close as a public kind of entertainment place? That was like what, 15 years ago now? I think it became.
It's got to be what? No, it's not that. Not that. It's got to be. It's got to be getting close to 9, 10 now. Though. It's got to be. And it's a shame. I said it's a shame because it was a good place when it first opened. Of course, it was very different. But again, when the last owner took it over, he was just more interested in money than anything else. So he completely gutted the place, including getting rid of that big brass tree that was in the middle upstairs.
Yes.
Beautiful, it was beautiful. Gone. All these single booths were taken out, and they were great. Everybody loved them. I used to do the Living Histories there when it first opened, and of course everything on the ride was new and worked. So it's just it's just short-sightedness and greed that ended up shutting the tiles. Again, a great shame. And of course, we used to have out at Edwinstowe, we used to have the World of Robin Hood, which was another great place, pretty much built out of the sets of Prince of Thieves, which was again another good film. Not a great film, but a good film.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like you could take the story away. It's a good film.
That film did more for Nottingham than any other Robin Hood film. That one film did more for Nottingham than any other film, because we had the World of Robin Hood, we had the Tales of Robin Hood. There was the Sherwood Festival. There was the pageant. All these things were around at the time. Now we've got next to nothing, and it is such a shame. I just wish that the council would say, they've got this ideal selling opportunity. They call it the City of Legend, and they don't use anything. I mean, where is the sense in that? I just don't understand it.
I mean, because it literally becomes like your major tourist selling point, really, doesn't it? I mean,
people come from all over the world to Nottingham expecting to see Robin Hood. They are so disappointed when they find there's nothing out.
I guess you see the bronze statue outside the castle. That's about it.
Mm. And that's a joke. I mean, that's known as the world's largest garden gnome.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. That is actually known as the world's largest garden gnome. But there are a few statues around Nottinghamshire. There's the one at Edwinstowe of Robin Hood and Maid Marian. Looks like they're dancing. And then there's the one in the forest that keeps moving. Now, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's like playing. It's like playing a big game of Where's Wally, because you never know where it's going to be from one day to the next. It keeps moving, and everybody thinks he's made out of bronze, and he's not. He's fiberglass, But they keep moving him around. The one outside Nottingham, outside the castle in Nottingham, obviously synonymous with Robin Hood. You see him all over the world, postcards, badges, little statues of him. It became the thing, people want to get the pictures taken out of it.
Yeah.
Taken away. It's a great pulling point, and of course you've got all the friezes around the little square.
That's right.
Giving the story of Robin Hood.
Oh, the one thing I like about there, like during late summer, they do live Shakespeare. Like performances. That's absolutely amazing. There's like a perfect shape for a stage theatre. A very small, maybe 50 people can watch it, and it's beautiful because it's like the right kind of setting. It's like it has the right kind of background. There's massive castle in the background. Well, what remains of a castle. And it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah. Again, Nottingham Castle isn't a castle; it's a ducal palace. Now it is. People again, they say because people talk about Nottingham Castle, people think it's going to be like Warwick. This huge rambling place with crenellations and fortifications and so on and so on.
No, it's just a manor house.
It's not. It's just a big ducal palace. A beautiful building. People say it shouldn't be there. Well, yeah, it should, because that's where it was built. It's exactly where it should be. It's a beautiful place, a beautiful building, just not a castle.
No. So how much of the castle?
You can see the, especially in this weather, if you look up on the green and you look at the grass, you'd see all the parched areas where the original walls were. You can see them still, which would be, it'd be nice if they were to do some kind of excavation there to actually have them on show, so people could see them and understand that. And of course, the castle itself, the history of the castle itself, fascinating castle, fascinating. I mean, Nottingham
was the capital
I've lived here since 1995, and it's my favourite. Well, Lichfield, where I was brought up, is my favourite city. Beautiful. Nottingham comes as a close second. There's always something going on in this town.
Yeah.
Always something going on. Friendly people. I mean, yeah, of course you get some idiots, but you get them everywhere you go. But on the whole, really friendly people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got two beautiful theatres. And
there's
always something going on. It's a great place. I love Nottingham.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot going on here. And it's kind of it's almost like the central hub of the country. And surprisingly, it's perhaps not more important than it kind of is.
And of
way.
The most important thing to remember is we've got Never Land here.
Me too.
The Arboretum, of course. It's a lovely little story. When Peter Pan was being written, and what's his name? J.M. Barrie was a reporter for the Nottingham Post. He used to go into the Arboretum and just make notes and write and so on and so on. And he based Neverland on the Arboretum.
He did, yeah.
So it's something else that they could make something of. They're not,
I don't even think there's a plaque, is there? That's all.
No, there's nothing. I only found that out by accident. But again, it's another string that they could be using. Come and visit Neverland, and it will be brilliant.
Yeah,
but they don't, because they're too short-sighted. It's all about making money these days, I'm afraid. But still, we digress.
We do. So I looked through your Facebook wall a couple of days ago in order to line up this talking stuff, and I saw you put an interesting post up where you put being Robin Hood is my job, but being a pirate and a highwayman is just a pleasure.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's exactly how I see you. You're a highwayman by looks and a pirate by life, but you actually are secretly Robin Hood in part of your day job. So being a pirate, I see that you You've always been a pirate, is that right?
Well, since 1978, when I was a young lad, it was the first pirate gig we did. Me and my mate Steve, we went to a school because they had this pirate weekend on, and we knew a little bit about real pirates like Blackbeard and so on. So, and we dressed as, most Hollywood pirates dressed because we didn't know any better. And that was the first outing of the Sea Thieves. It was me and a friend of mine. That was it.
Yeah,
You
so you
know.
got a little band going on there. So tell me about the
And,
Sea Thieves.
and then, of course, it kind of grew, and we started doing a few more. Then he went and lived in America, so like I just kept on doing little bits and pieces here. And then, of course, with the onset of various films, pirates films, and so on, suddenly there are other little groups like Black Flag and so on. But yeah, no, I've been doing it since 1970. I think it probably makes me the oldest pirate in England, to be honest with you, because I've been doing it longer than everybody else. All this reenactment, of course, all this stems from my brother Roland, who started me off. He was in the SEALs not many years ago, Sir George Lyle's Regiment of Foot, God bless him. And he did that for years, and then he became the chaplain general at SEAL Night, and then he retired because he had too much else on. And I just carried on. Doing it.
So would you say that being a pirate, being Robin Hood, etc., are they a role play aspect to your life, or are they actually your lifestyle? How would you define that?
My house is like a museum because of what I've been doing. I mean, I've of course I ran Spirit of England. Well, I still do. Spirit of England Medieval Theatre Company. So I've got to complete all the props and sets. They're all in my house. They're all in my house. I've got a 3-bedroomed house, and some days after I've done it, I can't even get to bed. I have to sleep on the settee because there's kit everywhere. Which is going to be great because my girlfriend's moving in soon.
There's Sarah, yeah?
And I've got Sarah, bless her. I've got to find somewhere to put her stuff.
You are aware, okay? Being a lady, she will want to impress her ladyship stuff upon your house. You're going to find yourself with a pink bathroom. You're going to find yourself with slippers everywhere.
Nah, it's not happening. It's not happening. I've told her it's not happening. I will create you your own little girl cave. She's into gaming. She's one of these gamers. I'm not a computer man myself. I don't like computer games. I think they're all pointless, to be honest with you. I'd sooner read a book. Okay. But she's very into these computer games. Dark Souls, particularly.
Yeah, very, very hard title that is. I have it myself.
Yeah.
Over there.
But she does all kinds of things. I mean, she's here. She's here. She's upstairs. I'll give her a shout in a minute. She can tell you. I don't know what other one she does, but she does them. She plays these games, and she's kind of missing it because she hasn't got a PlayStation and things set up here.
Oh, okay.
So I said to her, I said, I'll get your room. So I've got to empty my armoury, and I've got to put all that up into the attic.
You have an armoury, okay? I know your house is full of stuff, but you have an armoury.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's full of pole weapons and axes and swords and daggers and shields and various bits of armour, and I've even got like modern day equipment in there for I'm doing the modern contemporary stuff that I do. So yeah, I've got an armoury.
So tell me about it. I can remember you telling me once, and you put on Passionate Very Facebook, you came back from the US and your equipment had gone missing on the way back. What happened with that?
That's right, yeah. Went out there, took 2 bags, right? One full of kit, one full of my old personal stuff, and was coming back. I was there for 3 months, so I lived in America for 3 months while I was doing this filming. Got everything packed, was coming back on the plane, and they said in order for me to take my second bag back, I mean, you can take it out, no problem. Taking it back, it was going to cost me like $300, which is about 200 and some odd quid.
What is that? Like kind of insurance, is it? Or what was their excuse for the charge?
Well, it was because it was excess baggage.
Oh, really?
That's what it was, yeah. So it was going to cost me that much because of the weight of it, which was odd because it weighed exactly the same on the way out as it did coming back, but I had to pay for it on the return journey. I didn't quite understand that. So I was stopping with my agent. And she said, well, what I'll do is I'll keep it and send it back to you through the post. So I went, okay. Couldn't even do that. It was going to cost over $1,000 by post to send this bag back. I said, send it back in bits. Just send it back in bits. You know, you can keep the bag. Just send me the kit back. I need the kit. So, yeah, got all my Robin Hood kit bagged up, boxed up. Absolutely. Took it into one of the, the courier services, and it vanished. It disappeared. Luckily, this place had closed circuit television, and they saw it was a woman. They saw her remove my box of kit because I knew exactly what was in it. And instead of putting it on the conveyor to take it through to the warehouse before it was loaded, she put it underneath. Nobody knew why, you know. And of course, she was caught. And being a federal case, I couldn't get my kit back because it was being used as evidence. However, when it did come back, it had been ripped open. So much stuff was missing out of it. It had to be replaced. So, and of course, a lot of my stuff is handmade. I mean, the original top I had was hand-woven, handmade material. You couldn't buy one nowadays. You know what I mean? Because you'd need a mortgage, because that's how expensive it was. Even back when I had it first made, it was bloody expensive. But yeah, a lot of it vanished. So I had to make do with what I could find online. But still not happy about it, because there was never any real resolution about it. There's still stuff missing. And there's still stuff over in America that I just can't get to, because it's just too bloody expensive to send it back. It's ridiculous, Kristian, the amount they're charging. And it's not, it's it's more than anything else. It's import tax and VAT. So it's England that's stopping me from getting it, not America. It's, you know, it's the British customs and the VAT people and the tax people that are stopping me from getting it, because I just can't afford to shell out the kind of money they're asking for my own kit. You know, ridiculous, criminal.
Well, it's interesting. You have to pay like a customs tax and a VAT tax, effectively, on your own gear.
Exactly, you know, and I got in touch with them. I said, but hang on, it's like you're asking me to pay tax on stuff that I've had for years.
Yeah, you've already bought your own. It's yours.
Well, yeah, it has to get flown over, like, so there's fuel costs. And I said, well, hang on, you mean to tell me that all my kit was in a plane on its own? Let's be honest, that wasn't. There were thousands of packages and boxes and so on. So what you're asking for is just extortionate money for something that shouldn't cost anything at all, just to cover the costs of what? The plane and the fuel. But, like, you're the Royal Mail. You've got your own planes. You've got your own fuel depots. So it isn't even that, is it? It's just greed, isn't it? It's just taxes and so on and so on. It all boils down to making money off people. You know, I mean, talk about Robin Hood. These bleeders in government are worse than Robin Hood ever was. But the thing is, they're honest about it. They'll tell you what they're taking. You know what I mean? It just really annoys me, mate. It really annoys me.
I don't blame you.
Courier services and the Royal Mail annoy me at the best of times, because they're useless. It's what happens when you make a business public. It's like the train service. Ever since that floated, it's been rubbish. Yeah. Royal Mail, rubbish. You know, I mean, there's I think there's 3 postmen that come down here. One of them is great, really nice, you know, old guy, glasses, always smile on his face, wears his shorts, summer or winter, and always knocks when you've got a handful of letters and so on, so you don't get them chewed up in the letterbox. Brilliant. But the others, there's one guy, he can't even bother to deliver down the street. He leaves them all at the top of the road. He'll post them all through one letterbox. This is Royal Mail for you. It's disgusting, mate. It's disgusting. You know, I've complained about it. Oh, well, we'll get on to that. That's a serious complaint, that is. I'm going, yeah, it's also illegal. You know, come on. Tampering with the mail, that's illegal. You can't do that. You can't just deliver it somewhere and
hope that it gets to wherever.
You know, because it does not. I have had so much. So, I mean, I've had, because of the mail, I have had letters that haven't been delivered, and the next thing you know, I'm getting a summons. And I'm thinking, well, hang on, what's this from? And I'm contacting the people, but I haven't even received the letter. But we posted it out and saying, yeah, but I haven't received it. You know, and then you find out that these clowns are just not doing the job that they're being paid to do. So,
Well,
you know,
it's kind of weird. I actually would love to be a postman. I have no problem walking around doing stuff in the morning, talking to people, saying hello. I think it'd be great.
yeah, great. I mean, I always said the best job would be a street sweeper.
Yeah.
You know, you get your little patch. You get your little patch. All you got to do is sweep your little patch, and you can talk to people, have a cup of tea, be out in the outdoors. What a great job!
Yeah.
You know, brilliant job. I'll be a road sweeper. I'd love it. Robin Hood road sweeping services. There you go. There's a business idea.
There we are. That'll work.
I'll tell you what. You can have that one, Kristian. I'll give you that one, mate. But yeah. So yeah, things. But again, I mean, you complain till you're blue in the face. It isn't going to make any difference. People are still going to do what they do. Companies are still going to run the way they run, you know, and the government are still going to rob you. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, the government's
and
doing
I think that is why life is so hard at the moment. You know, I mean, it's people. There just isn't. People just haven't got the money they used to have because everything is going up in price. Everything is going up, apart from the wages, which aren't. No. You know, so people are suffering because of it, and it's a shame that, hey, you know, politics, I suppose.
Yeah, the politics, the economic situation, it all feeds into itself.
And the clowns we've got running the country at the moment, but, well, I'll tell you what, let's not get into that because I could,
no, we can be here all day on that one.
Oh, man, politics and me. I mean, Facebook is a great one. If you want to know about politics, don't go on Facebook.
No.
Because Facebook politicians are the worst.
Yeah, armchair politicians. It's almost like the armchair quarterbacks, as they call them in the US, the armchair managers, just talking about how they would run a football club much better than it. Well, if you did, you would do it. But yeah, armchair politicians who they want to choose a position in the fight, no matter what kind of barrier is the opposition, they'll just go full force at them. Just because they have an opinion on something, and that could be anything from comedy to your gender, your equality, the height of an airplane in the sky. The things that everything bothers somebody, and that, unfortunately now social media has given everybody a voice, and that voice is amplified because everyone's annoyed as well.
You know, everybody's got the right to speak. Not everybody's got the right to be heard. I'm sorry, but I don't believe it. Everybody's got the right to be heard. No, because the problem is the people that want you to hear them are usually idiots who don't know what they're talking about. They just confuse issues and make matters worse. So no, not everybody has got the right to be heard. You know, if I want to talk to politics, I'm going to talk to a politician.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk to somebody on Facebook. It's like if you go to the dentist, you're not going to let a gardener deal with your teeth. You're going to talk to a dentist.
Yeah.
You know, they make me laugh. These politicians, these Facebook politicians do. And of course, when somebody who actually knows something about politics goes on there, they get shouted down by people saying, "But you don't know what you're talking about." Like, I'm going, seriously, what? You know.
There was an interesting conversation I saw with Lavrov, who's the foreign minister for Russia. It was on our team. It was really interesting. He says the problem is with a lot of countries now is that they have such a young government, or the government rolls around so quickly that the ministers who actually deal with foreign countries don't change all the time. So unfortunately what happens is those people aren't educated in the things such as the treaties and the organisation of what's been said or what's the history between two different countries. So when they go in there, they know what to talk about because they know where things lie with those countries. Unfortunately now, you have countries are rolling in and out of the situations and people take over, there's revolutions all the time. But because of that, what's been spoke of before and what the current organisational level is astray. And then their own country's finding that. And I realise that's exactly what the situation like the US is right now really facing. Certainly ourselves and much of Europe. They don't know what the treaties are, what the organisations are between people. Everyone's shouting over certain things. And it's just a shouting mess. And that's why I think there's not much progression in terms of a sensible common sense agreements, because everyone really just wants to hoard everything for themselves.
Well, that's it. Common sense, man. Common sense doesn't play a role in anything these days, I'm afraid.
No.
You know, it really doesn't, and it's a shame. But I always have to, I always have to like keep my fingers away from the keyboard these days when I'm looking at some of the stuff on Facebook. And it's not just Facebook though, is it? You see it everywhere, man. You see it everywhere.
You do.
I mean, it's like you look at the moment. What's going on in America with Donald Trump and everything, and people saying he's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, fair enough if that's what you believe, but don't try and foist that opinion on me because it's not going to work. The guy's a businessman, a failed businessman at that, and he's obnoxious. You know, if you want a president who's obnoxious, he's going to put everybody's nose out of joint. Well done. You've got exactly what you wanted.
I do think the more worrying thing, and not so much about Donald Trump and what his positions are, is what comes next.
Just to name up all that, just as an example.
It's a good example, and the fact that you have a guy who really was so anti-establishment. He brought there on his own money. He got there and he got to power. And I guess he's dealing now with the politics of things that have been in there for lots of time. And
good point. It's like people saying when the general election comes around, we're going to vote the Conservatives out and we'll get Labour in. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, but do you really think things are going to change?
Well, no, we had 12. I mean, I voted Labour when I was younger, but we had 12 years of Labour, and then they literally had to step out of government because they had no money left, and the situation was so dire. They actually went to the Queen and says, you know what, can you rule the country for us and go back to a royal system because it's so bad. And the Queen's like, no. And then we had to bring it.
Didn't we fight a civil war over this?
Yeah, it's just like people do forget that.
I just think that people have got to realise that, say the parties do change, whoever gets in next has got all the mess to deal with that have been left by the government before. Yeah. And let's face it, we are in a mess right now. A mess.
And in 4 years, you can't do it. I don't think.
So when people say, yeah, but taxes are going to be dropped and so on, I'm going, no, they'll probably find they're going to go up. They're going to have to, because we've got to get back what we've lost. So it's going to be no different. You're probably going to be worse off.
Yeah.
With a different party than you are now. It's bad enough as it is, but it is. It's like that. It's like that old adage, man. It's true.
Yeah.
Better the devil you know.
Yeah.
Really, seriously, it really is true. As much as that that statement obviously is, it's going to be a bit of a bone of contention, But right now, if the government was to change, we're on our knees right now. I mean, do you want us to be flat on our backs?
Yeah.
It's the same with all this Brexit business. I think people have forgotten that now we're not getting the funding. A lot of the things that have been run by the government are having to be pulled because so much of them were done with European money. Yeah. So much of them. We've already lost. I think it's 35 billion in funding alone. That's where we're not going to get that from anywhere else. That came directly from Europe. We're not going to get it anywhere else. So now we're that much poorer because we haven't got it. I understand why people wanted to leave Europe. I didn't agree with their ideas about it because, okay, fair enough. But, I mean, people say, yeah, but we were being fined this much each day. Yeah, we were being fined because we didn't obey the rules that we put into place in the first place. Yeah.
There's lots of sticking points. I mean, part of the problem also is that when you change the admin team, a lot of the game is still being played. It's just like changing the management team. Effectively, the job starts to run on a day-to-day basis. And you're just trying to put people in there who might run it better, but unfortunately, they're still trying to run and not break what's already there. So I think the way the politics perhaps should now change. I think that. But
politics needs to change. Politics needs to change in order for us to move forward.
I think the world has changed drastically as well. I think the world, unfortunately, it faces very different challenges, different worries. That I don't think a system like ours does a great job. I get that how a system should work, but I just don't think they now have enough money or resources to run it. I mean, the fact that they're selling off everything from the water to the rail services to energy services to foreign countries. I mean, so to foreign corporations within other countries, should I say?
Look what's happening with the NHS.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I mean, it's ridiculous. The one thing that every government should make sure is that the NHS is stable, it's there, it's being worked, because there are so many people out there that would be dead if it wasn't for our NHS.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It used to be the greatest one in the world. It was the only one in the world. I mean, now there are other models of it running around the world, but like the NHS, everybody paid for it. Is now again, it's being destroyed, chipped away. chipped away, just like the emergency services, the police and the fire and the ambulance brigades. They're not getting the funding. They're not getting the funding, and like, you know, eventually it is going to start having an effect on people.
Yeah,
it already is. People are already dying, like, because of it. You know, putting hospital beds that have been, you know, it's. A friend of mine broke his arm about 3-4 weeks ago, and he went into the A&E, and he was. I think it took him 6 hours before they could actually set his arm because they were that busy. 6 hours to set. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And there are people that weren't meant to be. You know, I mean, it was the other day. A friend of mine contacted me, whose dad was going in for an operation, and he was actually on the operating table, and suddenly he was removed and put back into the ward because the surgeon was too busy, and he was on the table, anaesthetised everything. You know, how ridiculous is that?
yeah.
You know, because and it's national health. It's because these people just don't get that, like, they're destroying something so important. Because most of these aren't with the national health. You know, the people that want to get rid of it are with private health.
Of course they are. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, they're certainly sat on their shareholder boards and they're with the private industry, and that's how they make their money. So they want to see those things chipped away.
It's all down to money these days, Chris, and it shouldn't be. People's well-being, people's health should not be down to money. Money should never enter into it.
No.
You know, I mean, how much is a man's health worth? That's what you've got to ask yourself, you know. I mean, to me, mine is priceless.
Yeah,
so,
it's for sure. When you look at your own health, it's the only one thing for absolutely know for sure is real. You know, you can't be sure of a God, you can't be sure of what's going to happen tomorrow, but you can be sure of who you are right now.
Exactly.
So the one person you really should be taking care of is yourself, your kids, you know, and the people around you, because it's the only thing you know for sure.
So yeah. So, what have you got coming up anyway, Chris? Have you got anything interesting on the?
You know what? So I have actually. I've got a few things that are lining up quite nicely actually. So my friend Kevin got in contact with me quite recently. He's a guy I didn't go to school with actually. We met via schools, and you know, he's a long-term gamer. He's a guy who I would say he's got a few kids, you know, and he's always kind of stayed in a low-end job. No, but he's a very, very articulate, very knowledgeable guy who has lots of time for people and lots of time for himself and his family. So he's kind of like, I've coasted by, but you know, and he's yearning for something. So he's formed a games company with the three other guys, and they're producing some games for the mobile phones and stuff. They're doing quite well. So they've brought me into that to do their marketing and public relations, do some coding and some management for them. So that's really quite an interesting opportunity for me. I've seen what the guys are up to. They're a bit disorganised. I've managed to, you know, straighten a few things out with them, and they're now on track with what they've got coming up. So the one thing I really wanted to do is just have honest conversations with people. And I think because it's a missing art, I find that I'm learning by way of myself. I'm being informed. I'm learning about things, but also I think there's a market out there for people who also want to listen, who also want to learn, who want to do things, and whether it be a podcast, a video cast, they could just watch it and go, I've got something from this, and whether that be like mirrored on the Joe Rogan model or the coast to coast is what I said.
Unfortunately, the art of conversation is dying, and that of course is down to
all too easy for one of these
mobile phones. You know, it's all texting these days and emojis and stuff like that. I mean, I still write letters with a fountain pen. Man. You know, I was saying a fountain pen up on Facebook a couple of years ago. There were kids that didn't know what it was. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
There's a weird point of that, and there's a lady who I've started to converse with. You know, she's just a customer at work, right? You know, we got chatting, we got talking. And we're actually sharing emails, and it feels kind of retro.
Yeah.
It's just like, so it's just, but she writes really long emails, and obviously I respond the same way. And it's back and forth, you know. There's nothing romantic going on, just a really interesting person to share a conversation with. But it's just like, it just feels like mid-90s. And I actually miss the pen pals I had when I was a teenager. I met this lady who lived in Canada. How I've tried desperate to try and get in contact with again. I mean, I know she must have been 18 at the time. She must be in her 30s like I am now, perhaps a couple of kids or whatever. I'll have to get in contact with her because she was the one I shared pen friends with them, and we shared so much stuff back and forth, like what each country's money looks like, what families are, and you develop a relationship. And I think that's a lost art. People no longer ask beyond the person. It's also when
it's like the old pen pal thing. I mean, I was talking to somebody about that a while ago, and they said, "Oh, it still goes on, but it's all emails these days." Well, when I was at school, we used to get given a list of the people that you fancied talking to, and I got this Native American guy, Grey Wolf, Gary Grey Wolf, and Southern Cheyenne fella. And I started writing to him, and he was writing back, and we kept this going for years. And when I went out to America on my travels, I actually went to see him. And it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. He showed me around. He introduced me to his people and his family. And, we sat down, we talked. And I mean, and I first started writing to him when I was about 8, I think, 9, something like that.
Oh, wow. So it's been really good when you got together.
We're still in contact. And, that's what? Over 40 years. So, we're still in contact. And I've only ever seen him twice. You know what I mean? But I know his kids, I know his wife, and his dad. God rest him. He's no longer with us, but I mean his dad and his granddad, and it was just really, really, and all because when I was a nipper, I wrote him a letter. That's it. That's all it took. Just writing a letter. Just first initial steps of communication has led to a lifelong friendship.
Yeah, I mean nowadays people, even in the way that people interact with each other, just the initial onset, dating or whatever, or meeting people who are romantically interested, it's now all done by mobile phone apps because no one has the time to talk. So do you like the look of this person? Yes or no, swipe left or right. And it's like, wow, ring the person if you like them. As simple as that might seem, it just seems always like a bit alien. Actually, I love to talk to people. I love to converse with people, and it's weird because I've met people, so just customers or whatever, we have a really good bond, a really good chat. Or, people you meet in town, it's like, do you want to come meet for a drink? And they instantly think you want to fuck them. Or rather than, no, I actually would like to have a conversation with you. I think you've got something interesting to say. I like the medallion you had around your neck. There's this lady I met about a year ago. She had a Zoroastrian sign on her chest. And I was like, that's really interesting. And I know a little bit about that culture, but I don't know much about it. You wear it as a religious symbol. Could you tell me more? And her mum was so defensive, going, "Well, I just don't know. Come as well. Tell me about it." And it's just like, no one's ever done that before. Yeah. And I was just like, what?
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. What you can achieve simply by taking the time out to actually talk to people. Because let's face it, it doesn't make any difference where you are. It doesn't make any difference what trouble it is. It's always resolved through talking.
Yeah. And going back to what we were talking about a little while ago, that the political situation of the world, I mean, what happens is that keep it to talk, because if you have to go to war, effectively, if you have to go to fighting hands in the ground, what still has to happen at the end of it is, well, you have to cease it and have a conversation. So why not never get to that? Why not never get to that point and keep the conversation around the table in the first place?
That's it. Yeah. I always say that, like in this day and age, if politicians are talking about war, let them fight it.
Yeah.
Let them fight it. We'll give them a big ring, and the politicians of one country can get into a ring with the politicians of the country they want to argue with, and they can beat the snot out of each other and leave the poor bloke alone, leave the poor innocent man on the street alone.
It's not their kids that are going to war, you know that for sure.
I mean, back in the old medieval period, a lot of arguments and so on was usually settled with a
duel,
single combat and champions, It would be great if that could. I can just, it's. You can just imagine it, can't you?
I'll have a trial by combat, please. It's much easier.
Choose your weapons, let's do this thing. But it's politics and so on and so on. But talking, very important.
Yeah, very much so.
It's great, and we've been talking for nearly an hour and a half.
Yeah, it still feels pretty fresh. It still feels pretty cool. So. Brian Blessed.
Oh, Brian Blessed. Now you've started.
Yes,
now you've started. What can I tell you about Brian Blessed?
All right, so what can you tell about Brian Blessed? So the one thing it makes me smile on a daily basis, I see you post a picture of Brian Blessed, and it always appears on my feed, and it's like, no. Sometimes I go past, it's like, oh, not again, Tony. But other times, actually, you know what? He clearly has a bond with this guy. I know you guys have worked together many times in the past.
Yeah,
So what is
yeah.
it? What is it with
Well,
Brian Blessed that draws you to,
it's-
to share to the world how important he is to you?
Okay. Brian Blessed is without doubt the greatest actor who's ever lived because he acts. Yeah, he acts without acting. He's only ever himself. He can only ever be Brian Blessed. You know, when you see Brian Blessed on film, he's not going to be a quiet character. He's going to be massive. He's going to be huge. He's going to shout and roar and scream because that's who Brian Blessed is.
There's
He's
a
not
few,
only that,
there's a few actors like that actually. They don't act anymore. They're just themselves. And I think like Tom Baker's like that. That's the reason why he's not. I listened to him the other day. He says, "Well, I'm never not the Doctor because the Doctor was just me. That was just me being myself. I was just louder." Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Brian Blessed's been in Doctor Who as well.
Of course he has.
But you know, with Brian Blessed, I'm afraid it's a lifelong thing. I remember him as Francis Smith in Z Cars, and I remember him as Mark of Cornwall in Art of the Britons and other things he's done. And I've always been he's just great. He's brilliant. It's not just because he's an actor. It's because he's one of the last gentleman adventurers. I mean, he's the oldest man ever to have climbed Everest. We're talking about the man who punched a polar bear in the face to stop it from being shot. You know what I mean? What's there not to love about Brian Blessed? He is big and brash, and he's always Brian Blessed. And the reason that people talk to me about Brian Blessed mostly is because of the pictures that I post on Facebook. And I'll tell you why. Everybody keeps asking me this question, so maybe this will stop them asking me once and for all. I get tired of seeing pictures of food, seeing pictures of people's kids, seeing pictures of kittens, and because I woke up one morning, I was just checking Facebook, and it was just one after the other cute little fluffy kitten pictures. Well, I don't like cats anyway, so let me eat. So, and like somebody just said, I've just had a brilliant breakfast, full stop, that was it. Yeah, and, well, I just had breakfast too. What are you talking about? And it just really, really annoyed me. It just really, really annoyed me. So I got onto Google, the first thing I could think of was, like, who is going to make people look? And I thought, Brian Blessed. So I posted a picture of Voltan, and I said, here is a picture of Brian Blessed for no reason at all. And it kind of started this campaign, And if I go a few days without posting a picture of Brian Blessed for no reason at all, I get messages. Why can't we have a picture of Brian Blessed? I said, it's ever so easy. You could post one yourself. Wouldn't be the same, Tony. And it started this kind of thing. So, like, well, I don't do it every day now, but he just makes me smile. There are actors that you enjoy watching. There are actors that you watch that you think, yes, you get it. I understand you. I get you. I know what you're doing. I know where you're coming from. And so you kind of attach yourself to him. You become a lifelong fan. It's like fans of Errol Flynn and Rudolph Valentino and Richard Green and, all the rest of them. There are fans that will follow them their whole lives. Well, I've been extremely lucky. Because I've worked with him on a number of occasions. When we were doing King Lear, he was magnanimous enough to actually make sure that my name was put on the credits for directing certain scenes. I got accredited for that, and that was down to Brian Blessed. Worked with him on Chasing the Deer about the 45 Rebellion, worked with him on Merlin, worked with him on King Lear. I've done a lot, luckily enough. And I've seen him once or twice. And the last time I saw him was only, a couple of months ago. Took Sarah. Sarah came with us. In fact, she got me the ticket for my birthday. Brilliant present. So I went to see him at Leamington Spa, and it was just an evening with Brian Blessed. I've seen him before doing that. But when it comes to questions, I put my hand up, and I said, I've got to ask you a question. It was about the Bruce. And he went, oh, Tony. And he actually remembered me. And that is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant, because when you think of the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that he must meet, and then he remembers you. You know, it gives you this right boost. It really makes you feel great, you know.
Yeah.
No, he's just a brilliant actor. He's just a brilliant actor. One of my favourite things is something that Sarah got me last Christmas, which is a Brian Blessed tea towel. And not only that, but it's a very special tea towel because he's actually drawing a long bow on it. You know what I mean? So there's 2 links there. And, of course, he's been in Robin Hood films. He was Lord Loxley in Prince of Thieves, and he's in one of these new ones as well. He plays Friar Tuck in a new one. I can't remember the name of it. It might use it in Renegade. No, not Renegade. Anyway, I'll sort it out. I'll put a post in for you.
Sure.
Mate, and then you'll be able to see it. But this film looks to be quite interesting. And I will enjoy it because Brian Blessed's in it. But if it's a rubbish film, I will say it's a rubbish film. You know,
I think the actors, when the actors are doing movies, they probably already have an inkling this movie's going to be shit. They already know. They've read the script and they go, yeah, whatever. They're paying me though. So. Yeah.
So Brian Blessed, an amazing chap. I have managed to sit down and talk to him at some length about various things, and obviously, you know, it's I'm just very fortunate to have worked with somebody who I respect so much, you know. But again, it's not just that. I mean, I've got his books. Well, it's not all of them, but some of his books. He is an adventurer. He's a gentleman adventurer. He's been over to the Amazon and across deserts, and you know, writing his stories as he goes. And you only need to give him the hint of a bit of a story. He'll be there with an anecdote, like, you know, about some of the people he's met and so on. And he's a great singer too, an amazing singer.
I can imagine that, actually. It's quite bombastic voice, I guess, would lend itself quite well to the track.
He was in Cats, for instance.
I didn't know that.
He was in Cats, the original Cats. And, you know, obviously he's done so many films. He's in the Star Wars films, and they never saw he was some creature, I believe. Not that I know, I think that was
Flash Gordon, of course.
I haven't watched. I'm not a Star Wars fan. Bores me, in fact. You know, I've always been a Star Trek man.
Same. It's weird because
original Star Trek with William Shatner, and you know.
Well, we're talking of Star Trek then. So the other guy, you were saying about he's a guy, he's very original. Well, you're talking about Brian Blessed, that is. Yeah, he's a guy. He's very much. He connects with people, and I find that I follow like Patrick Stewart on social media, and he's very much the same. He's putting like loads of stuff there. He's like very much a fan interactive guy. He loves how people adore him, and he obviously gives that back to the people as well. Like Ian McKellen, much the same. And
Ian McKellen. I've met Ian McKellen. What a gentleman!
Yeah, I really admired his. He recently did like Sherlock Holmes. He did like Mr. Holmes, and that was it was a very different take on it. It kind of felt like it was like the Robin and Marion of Sherlock Holmes, and that was a much more subdued, more grounded film. And I came away from that going, that was a great movie.
Of course, you got Brian Blessed appeared in The Hand of the Baskervilles.
He did.
He did indeed, yeah.
Man, it's a classic one of the classic ones as well.
You know what? I am going to have to get off, mate, because I've got so much to do.
All right.
But it's been an hour and a half, and it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. So, so the plan is to do with this release
I actually could edit some of the rubbish out, like.
The general conversation is true.
It has been great fun. It has been great fun, and if I don't see you before, I'm sure I'll see you at Pagan Pride if you're going to be there.
Well, it's weird. I haven't been invited to this one, and I haven't been asked. No one spoke to me about anything. Which is a bit strange. I think I've offended some people who are on the organisation team. One person in particular who's taken great offence to some of the things I share. You know, and that's their opinion. You know, that's one of those things. I keep in touch with everyone else.
A man who never offended anybody, never did anything. I'm afraid I offend people all the time, and you know what? I don't really care. I really don't, you know, because what is an offence to somebody is a compliment to other.
Exactly. Of course it is, yeah. So, I haven't spoke to anyone from there, apart from David, since then. It's quite weird, actually. I mean, I used to be in really, really frequent contact with everyone, not so much any longer. But yes, Pagan Pride is like first week in August, so that should be...
5th of August, the
I'm still going to go along. I'm still going to say hello to people, because there's people I know there, so I'm looking forward to see what happens on the day.
Yeah, do.
So what have you
I'm
got?
sure, I'm sure it'll all work out in the end. These things usually do.
They do.
Yeah.
And I don't hold any animosity towards anyone. It's life's too damn short
Life's too
to be
short for
frustrated.
that. Life's too short for that.
Absolutely, life's. People get wound up about the silliest of things when actually we all have everything in common. So let's just get
Plus,
to
we
them.
all live on this same rock. We all live on the same rock. We all breathe the same air. You know, we're all linked at some level. It doesn't make any difference who you are or where you're from. You know,
Absolutely.
it's all. And life is too short for falling out and staying flat with people. I just can't do it. I can't be bothered with it.
No, just break the ice and just go. What's the issue? What's going on? And
That's it. That's it.
And it keeps everything on an even keel where there's no anger, animosity or anger. Unfortunately, some people still hold that. That's to them.
Yeah.
But so, dude, thank you very much for taking the time out to have a conversation with me today. I really appreciate it. And I guess there's people out there who want to listen, who want to know more about you, want to know more about me, and we guess these conversations are what drives that. So, dude, is there anything before you dash off that you want to talk about and want to say, a website address, Facebook, or whatever, that you want to put up?
No, but what I would say is if people out there are listening, have a look on the old Facebook. But have a look not on my personal page, because my personal page is full of just me spouting off all kinds of rubbish. Have a look on my Robin Hood page. My Robin Hood page is the important one. It's Tony Rotherham, the official Robin Hood of Nottingham. You'll find it. Just put my name up there. You'll come up with it. And I'm sure that you'll find things interesting. It's not like your normal Robin Hood page. I put a lot of articles up about various films. I find out as much historical information as I can. Put them up. There's loads of pictures of what goes on and so on and so on. And there's some scathing reports about some Robin Hoods in there, which people seem to enjoy. I've got over 1,000 people following now, so it's always nice to have new people get in there that are interested in the subject. But other than that, no, mate, I can't think of anything at all. Apart from my website, have a look on the old Facebook page. That's the one. That's the one I'm interested in.
Okay, this is TonyRotherham.co.uk, yeah?
Sorry.
Is that TonyRotherham?
.co.uk is my website, but it's a really old website. I am going to get a new one done, but like I said, the most important one to me is my Robin Hood Facebook page.
Yeah, I guess it's the easiest place for people to follow. So.
For obvious reasons, man. I mean, it's my job.
Yeah.
So anything that's going to get me a bit extra work, that's what I'm interested in, because I do like work and I can't stand being idle. So there you go, mate. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Tony, and I'm sure we'll talk again at some point again in the future.
You take care. Catch you later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this conversation today, please hit up a like, please hit a subscribe. I really do appreciate it. It lets me know that I'm producing the kind of content that you want to listen to and that you want to watch. Until next we meet, when we continue exploring the curious.